Hello everyone. Today what we're going to do is we're going to be programming this little keyboard here. So let's me first introduce you what this little keyboard is all about. So it's a little 4x4 macropad that actually was originally designed by 40% Club. So this is the 4x4, so it can actually expand to larger sizes. But the 4x4 is probably the easiest. So the way it works is that we've got essentially headers for all the rows at the top, and then we've got diagonal connections for the different columns, and ultimately what we need is the columns here and in the rows. And you can see the backpack here, which is compatible with the BlueMicro firmware, where it's very similar to the BlueMicro, but it's much bigger and essentially just fits right below the 4x4 to form a nice little macropad. So what we're going to do today is essentially program this, and you can see very clearly I've got my SWD programming lines, my serial lines, I've got a battery connection, right now it's off, reset right here, and just a few little minor components. So let's first have a look at this. Program this with a firmware. Program this so that we can test whether the keyboard works properly. And once that's tested, we're going to modify a standard configuration to actually go and do our macropad. So first things first, I'm just going to plug this in here. I said we need to flash the bootloader and then the firmware. So let's go right ahead and look at that. So I've got my J-Link right here. So one thing I will need is, as you can actually see right here, I have a different connectors here. I'm gonna just use a different one for this. I'm gonna go my purple being my VCC, and then my purple being my VCC. So these little pre-made little wires, DuPont wires with the shells makes it very easy. You just line up one and then everything follows along. Instead of my basic programming, this is a little bit going to be a more advanced programming today. So we're going to be using, I currently use Visual Studio Code because it's a little bit more versatile than the Arduino IDE. But as I said, it's definitely more advanced. So I've already opened the folder and I can see the entire tree where I've got my entire GitHub repo. In here I have my firmware folder where I usually open up my INO file in Arduino. So this is the same file that we can see in Arduino. However, there's also all the other files, but what is really important here is we've got all these other keyboard folders, and this is where we're really going to go today. So you can see there's the 4x4 backpack, which is our board, and then there's a number of key maps. So there's essentially one key map called numpad. Well, we're going to create a new key map later on. So what we need to do is flash the bootloader. So I do have a set of tools, and because I'm using Windows, I've got a set of script for Windows, and I've got a terminal window right here where I have PowerShell. So I'm gonna go and I'm just gonna go and show you the path here that we need to go into. So the build path is where our build tools are, and then Windows is where our Windows specific build tools are located. And then build Windows at PS1 this is essentially a script to build everything, all the boards, or a very specific board. I can show you that. First I'm going to do is move to that folder. So CD build Windows. Okay, and then just as an example here, I'm going to build the 4x4 backpack firmware. So I'm going to go, and because it's at PowerShell, I just need to kind of put a path where this is located, and it's build windows.ps1, and if I just leave it at that, it's going to ask me a question, which one. If I press enter, it's going to build all keyboards with all key maps. I only want my 4x4 backpack, 4x4 backpack, and I'm just going to use all keymaps on here. Right now there's the keymap numpad, and there's a few board configuration that I've got set up. So Chuck and master, if I remember. And I've got 3 essentially compiled keyboards right there, and none of them have failed. So this is a useful way to test our configuration files, where when we have a keyboard that has multiple keymaps in it, is to be able to test each of these keymaps. Now what we need to do is flash I'm going to go and flash the numpad master on here. So I've got some tools, so let me just go into my Arduino flashing here. So in here, so I've got my J-Link connected, as I showed you earlier. This J-Link does not supply power to the device, so what we need to do is turn it on. So I'm going to just move that to the on switch. Okay, so what we need to do, let's just list the tools that we've got here. The tools we've got Flash Serial and Flash SWD. The Flash SWD actually flashes everything, not just the bootloader. So let's go at that, and using our J-Link, flash everything all in one go. So 4x4 backpack, and we set numpad master. Now let's flash this. So you see here there's a few steps that it goes through. So it says erasing, flashing, flashing, flashing. So it actually goes through a number of steps to make sure that our firmware is all uploaded. So let's have a look, and let's just turn it off. Put our keyboard on, our keys on top. Now let's go to turn it on again, and there we go, little switch. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to go to Bluetooth. So Bluetooth. Now this is my current keyboard. I'm going to add a Bluetooth device. For numpad. That's what I have here, connecting. So what we want to do is test it. So let's just start a notepad. Notepad, start, and here. So what I've got, let's see, 7, 8, 9. There we go. That's good. 4 number. And this one is actually a layer. So let's try the layer with, and that's. So I've got enter and plus. So I have a dual function here. So that's good. So that means that my keyboard actually works. That's good. So we validated that my configuration, my soldering job actually worked properly. Okay, so that completes the flashing of this keyboard. Now let's go and create the key map that I need to use for OBS. So now I've got a few OBS commands to be able to switch between my 4 different screens. So one is my work screen, which is my HD screen. One that has the same with my webcam. Then a webcam complete view like this. And then a zoom webcam, which is a little bit more focused like this. So I've got 4 scenes set up in OBS. So I'm going to have 4 different key combinations I need to work on. In addition, I want to also add window switching. So window switching, what we can do is a Windows key, or using this I can quickly switch between applications. So and you don't quite see it at the bottom, but if I go into my work screen right here, so I've got my Windows 1 is OBS, Windows 2 is VS Code, Windows 3 is going to be my Explorer, Windows 4 is Calculator. So you can see it just did not come on that side, but so if I just go and Windows, let's just go Windows 2 for my VS Code, Windows 4 on here, so I can quickly change applications this way. So this will be useful whenever I want to change a an OBS screen, I'm going to go to OBS and then change my window. So in the firmware as it stands today in early February 2019, we don't have macros yet set up in the firmware. However, we do have compound keys set up. So that means that I can actually have the GUI key, or that Windows 1, Windows 2, Windows 3 as a one set. And then in my OBS, I've got Control A, Control B, Control C, Control D as my different scenes. So what I want to do is essentially have, and let me go to my webcam again. So what I want to have is my first row is essentially my application switching, and my second row I want to have it is to whenever I'm in OBS, is I want to have it to be my scene switching. So let's go and do that in VS Code. What I want to do is I've got a key map. So in my key maps here, I've got my numpad. Well, I want a brand new one. I want my own key map for my OBS. So I'm going to create a new folder here, and I'm going to just call it JPC OBS. So JPC OBS. So JPC, these are my initials, and OBS, that's for essentially the application that I really want to focus this numpad on. Okay. Now, I need to copy two files. So you see in this folder I have nothing quite yet. So I need to copy the keymap.h file and then the keymap.cpp file. So let's go and first copy from here to there. So paste, and then copy from here to there, paste. So now I have in my JPC OBS the two files that I want to go and edit. So let's just make sure that I don't have these files anywhere. So keymap.h. So in here, these are like easy macros that are defined for a specific set of numbers. We don't really need to make much changes here. Perhaps with maybe defining a couple of macros to help us for the mod Control A, Control B, Control C, Control D for our switching our scenes in OBS, and then also for that Windows GUI. So let's define a couple of these here. So what we're going to do is we're going to say just copy this one, and we need so KC, so it's not capital D that we want to have, it's going to be let's call it CTL for Control A, and then it's going to be a left CTL. So that mod, how do you find what that mod is? So you can see here mod L shift, and it's got like something there. So let's go and see where that's defined, and I can see right in here I've got a few things defined. It's actually in my advanced keycode.h. Now in here I see mod left control, mod left GUI, and there I've got other ones in here too. So what I'm going to want to use is my left control, Control C, and then paste that to here, Control V, and then it's going to be a so now what we can do is minimize this. So now I've got my first one defined, and I'm going to have A, B, C, D. So let's go and just change these here. B, C, and D. And then I'm going to have A, B, C, and D. So these defines my four scenes that I want to program my second row of keys. Now for my first row, If you remember, it was my GUI or my Windows key. So if I just go and pick that definition that I need, it's gonna be this modifier here for the left GUI. So let's go and kind of copy this here, and I want left GUI, copy, and here. So instead of control, it's a Windows key, so I'm going to call it Win1 because it's Windows 1 that I want to have. And it's my GUI KC1. Now I've got 3 more that I want to define. Control C. I could actually define like a whole lot more if I want. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 2 rows, that's good. So 1, let's go like this, 2, 3. Yeah, this keyboard is actually kind of old firmware, so 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's keep going this way here. 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's just, well, let's define it so it's done. 9. And so I've got 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, and then 2. Okay, so I've got my left GUI 1 through 9. Let's close this here, and then I've got name as KC Win1, and I've got KC Control A through Control D, and I've got these guys here. Okay, so now I've got these guys defined as macros that I can use later. So I'm going to go save that. Let's go to my key map here. So what I've got here is essentially a single key map. There's no if statements or anything like that. It's very, very simple, useful for keyboards that don't have left or rights or multiple different configurations here. So let's go ahead and do this. So when we've got our, this is our standard key map, and I've got a layer 1 here also defined, and what I do here is I scan over that definition and add specific activation like the press key. So it's a simple press on layer 1, and then it goes into and do the scan here. So let's make sure we've got the first one set. So what I had here is what? So I wanted to have, let's just say the top 2 rows is my windows and keys. My 3rd row is going to be my scenes, and I'm just going to leave the bottom one probably just as is for now, just to show you how this is done. Okay. So what did I have earlier? So I had my Win1. So let's copy this, go here, and then I said 1, and I said, no, wait a second, I took a little bit too much here, so it's just a Win1 here. There it goes. So this, Control C, go back here. So it's the first 2 rows that I want to have as my predefined window switching. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so now I had also my my Control A through Control D. So let's go and copy this here. Control C, and then go here. So copy. I'm gonna go A, B, C, D, and just move that to D, C, and B. So home up, page down, escape, enter, delete, enter. That looks like kind of useful enough here. And then for these guys, I'll just leave them as is. Like maybe like 0 and dot. I'll just leave it as is. So now I'm gonna go and save all, because I need to save to disk for my my compiler to be able to pick up all the files. So what we need to do is again compile our firmware. So not flash, build PS1, and then it's the 4x4 backpack. So 4x4 back, and did I spell that right? Yes. And I'm gonna go all the key maps so that it makes sure it tests everything. So what it does, it compiles the key map I just did onto the chuck configuration, and it's compiling, and then that JPC OBS to the master, to peripheral, and then my numpad, which I had previously, is going to do that again. And it should be okay. Okay, so now it completely successfully to compile all 6 permutation of configuration of keyboard and key maps for the 4x4 backpack. So now let's go ahead and flash it and see if that works. So I'm gonna go in, not minimize, but go like this, and then go back to my OBS. And then switch that to my flashing configuration. And let's move it a little bit further up so that you can see what I'm going to be typing. Okay, so now we want to flash. If you remember, it's that, not the numpad, it's the JPC OBS to the master. So flash SWD 4x4 backpack. There's no typo. And then we're gonna have, what is it again? JPC OBS. That is my key map, and this is a master. Programming device, flashing, programming, doing all the things. Okay, so that's good. So it flashed. Let's go and make sure that it now works. So now I'm going to go to here. Now, what you're going to see, it says pair connected, pair connected. So why does it do this? That's because if I flash with SWD, one of the first few steps is essentially wiping the configuration on this and flashing the bootloader. So that deletes all the pairing keys that my 4x4 numpad had. So what I need to do is essentially remove my paired and then repair it again. Connect, and it should be coming up. Actually, it probably was not connected for long enough, so I need to wake it up. 4x4 numpad, so this is what I want. Connecting, it's connected, done. Now let's try this. Yeah, it switched to OBS. Now this should be to Visual Studio Code. Yep. And this should go to my Explorer. Yeah. Calculator. Yeah. Now let's go back to OBS and then see if we can switch. So this is my... Oh, okay. That's interesting. One. Oh, there we go. That's good. Switch, switch. Okay, I don't have a Control D set. Oh, that's neat. So all I need to do is set my Control D in OBS to switch my my view. Okay, that's neat. So in summary, what have we done now? So we've created a brand new key map, edited it so that we can actually have combined key codes. So we created these combined key codes in our keymap.h right here. And then once we've got these created, we have used them into our key map right here. Then we flashed it and then tested that it worked fine. Now, how do I change the name of my keyboard? If you remember, like that name that we've got, 4x4 numpad. Well, this is not a numpad anymore, so let's change that. Now, where do we do that? So now this is where if you remember in master, now I've got my master 4x4 numpad. This is where it actually is created. I'm the maintainer of the repo, so if I change this here to, for example, 4x4 macropad, which actually would make sense, so let's call it 4x4 macropad, and if I commit this to the repo, then everybody's going to have this. But I think 4x4 macropad would be kind of a useful way to potentially call it as well. So let's call it macro pad 4x4, and I'm going to leave the left and right as is, just to show you if I change the master here, it'll carry through, and as we flash it, it'll change it. So now what we're going to do is going to recompile, because it does not compile automatically. There we go, Windows build, and it's the 4x4 backpack. And then the key map name, we're just going to leave it blank for compiling all 6 combinations. It's not the one they want, that's the one that we want. Now the idea behind compiling everything is to make sure that when you change a specific key map, especially if you have a left and right, that if you change one side, it doesn't impact the other side from a compilation point of view. So it compiled it all, so we're good. So now we need to flash it. So what's our command to flash? It's a batch file called flash_swd. Flash_swd. Now the command is the keyboard, the layout, which is RJPC, OBS, and the master. Enter. So now we're doing our flash, programming device, and it is complete. So now let's go into our right here and see who we have available now. Bluetooth, and we have our 4x4 macropad, just like we named it. So I'm going to connect to it, and it's done. So that means now this keyboard here is now named 4x4 macropad, so it's no longer called 4x4 backpack. I've got another one here, and this one does have a battery, so let's see if this one has one. So let's go and turn it on. There we go. So I've got my 4x4 numpad chuck, which is this one here, like with chocolate switches on here. So if I can go and add my device, connect, done. So now I have my 4x4 numpad chuck, which is this one, my 4x4 macropad, and another one here that essentially the battery is dead, so it doesn't broadcast. I'll have to change the battery, and with just another numpad here. Do a final test. So I've got my work screen here. So let's go back to my webcam. So my mouse works, so that's good. So now let's, okay, so it minimizes and maximizes the window OBS. And when I'm in OBS, these are my, there we go, that works, that works, that works. That's good. What you've seen here today is essentially we've defined a keyboard, defined a new firmware, and yeah, neat. Done.